Are you looking to become a better leader, whether that's in business, in sports, or in life, and you haven't found a book yet to help you get to that game-changing aha moment? Well, we have the book for you. Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership. Tighten the Lug Nuts will help you get to that game-changing leadership moment. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks, or at 360managementservices.com. That's the number 360managementservices.com. Pick up your copy today and start changing your leadership styles.
Now it's time for the show.
Do this look like work to you? Nah. Looking at the lights like it's all of this for me. Everyone tonight is here. All of this for me. Hands in the air, yeah. All of this for me. Bottles over here. All of this for me. All of this for me. All of this for me. Light fast, light flash. All of this for me. All of this for me. All of this for me. Bottles bringing bottles out. All of this for me.
What is up, Romo Sapiens? Hello, and welcome in to another edition of the Rome Show here on Hamilton Radio Channel 2. It's Monday. It's October 28th. It's 1:01 p.m. here at the Hamilton radio station. I'm Andrew Romanella. I will be taking you all the way to the 2 p.m. hour. We got my man Ruben behind the wall, mixing it up on the ones and twos. And boy, do we have a great show lined up for you today. I feel like we say that every Monday. Before I give you the show details and I give you the, of course, social media, I want to thank Mr. Rocky Romanella for filling in on October 21st show, as well as the president of the UPS store, Tim Davis, for jumping on the Rome Show. Anytime we can get two very successful leaders and gentlemen like that on the Rome Show, affecting the Romo Sapiens in a positive way, we have to celebrate it. We have to be amped up about it. We need to listen to it. But we have to thank them for taking that time. So I super appreciate that. And you know, humans, we have another great guest on the show. He's been on the show a few times in cameo appearances. Mr. Jim Mazur. He is the president of Progressive Handicapping. He wants to get on here, talk a little bit about the ponies, how to bet the ponies, and the Breeders' Cup coming up November 3rd and November 4th. So if there's anybody out there looking to put a little bit of the bananas on the Breeder Cup, Mr. Mazur is going to join us at about 1:15 to get in here and drop some of that knowledge for you. So super great show. And, of course, at Wide World of Rome, at Coach Romo24, either on Instagram and on Twitter. We have a poll running it up on the Coach Romo24 Instagram. That poll right now is, of the four major sports in North of America, which major sport does home field advantage matter the most? Okay? I'm about to rant and rave about that on Straight Off the Rome, but I want to know your opinion, because right now, early polls indicate 70% of people believe baseball is the most important for home field advantage. I would say that the World Series right now dictates otherwise, but we'll get into that in a minute. And then football comes in second. So if you want to vote on that, Coach Romo24 on the Instagram, go to the Instagram story. And then, of course, you guys know the deal, 609-807-2492. That's the phone number to call in, 609-807-2492. You can call the show at any moment in time, the entire show. And then the rumor is that Mr. Mazur, okay, we're going to be coming up with a nickname for him today, so that's super exciting. Mr. Mazur's got some fans, we should call them, from Progressive Handicapping that are going to call in and ask some really good questions, get some insight for the Breeders' Cup, and dive into a little bit of the ponies with the Romo Sapiens. So it's a plethora. It's a plethora on the Rome Show today, so I'm super stoked for it. Guys, here's the deal. All right, Straight Off the Rome today is fresh off of the sports Equinox, okay? The sports Equinox, excuse me. If you don't know what that is the one day of the year in which all four major sports are playing on the exact same day. So we had the NBA regular season and NHL regular season. We had the World Series, and then we had NFL Sunday, right? So you have all four major sports playing. It's the only day during the year in which all four major sports are playing. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching, some football, hanging out with the family. We're having a great day. I'm watching a little bit of hockey, getting geared up for the World Series, which is what I'm ultimately excited for, some basketball, the whole nine, right? We finally get to the World Series, and I'm conflicted. 2-2 series. The Nationals win 2 in Houston. The Astros win the first 2 in Washington. All 4 games are won by the road team. Going to sleep the night before Game 5, I'm thinking Max Scherzer's on the hill for the Nationals, going up against Garrett Cole. It's which starting pitcher duels it out. And as I'm finding out, obviously, that Max Scherzer isn't pitching throughout the day and that somebody else is going to be stepping in his place, but Garrett Cole is still Garrett Cole and he's still pitching for the Astros, I'm starting to say to myself, okay, there's a serious possibility the Astros win. They do. And it brings me to my ultimate point, which is starting pitching still matters in Major League Baseball. So anyone that wants to come up to me with the argument, and I remind you, 609-807-2492, call in with the argument. But anyone that wants to call in and tell me that starting pitching doesn't matter in Major League Baseball, see the World Series. See playoff baseball. See important baseball. Yes, ultimately, right now we're looking at the Astros winning 3 straight games because their offense decided to show up, which is great. But if you think about it, the Houston Astros beat the New York Yankees without hitting a baseball, really. Their offense wasn't there. They didn't have timely hitting, but yet they still won the ALCS. Why? Why, might someone ask? Because of starting pitching. Because when you roll out Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole, and Zach Greinke as your 1, 2, 3 in the postseason, it is super difficult to beat that. Super difficult. And I heard Jessica Mendoza say the other day, and I thought it was a fantastic point. She says the other day, hey, listen, Zach Greinke could be a Hall of Famer if Zach Greinke figured it out 100% of the time. I agree 100%. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he has the stuff to be a Hall of Famer. And he's your third arm. Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Patrick Corbin didn't have a great outing, but that starting staff has gotten the Nationals to where they are. Timely hitting helped as well, of course. But without starting pitching, you can't win anything. The relievers throw too much. You can't go to them every single day. You can't. It's not possible. You need starters to get you to the 5th and the 6th, 7th inning consistently. The Astros have that. They have it in the best possible way. So don't bring the argument up into the Rome show about how starting pitching doesn't matter anymore, because it matters. Again, see the World Series. And by the way, in the playoffs, teams that get hot, they're backed by starting pitching. And my next point, and I just told you it's a poll on the Instagram, Coach Romo24. In my opinion, home field matters as much as the next day's starting pitcher in baseball. Home field matters as much as the next day's starting pitcher. See 2019 World Series. 5 road wins. 5. And I would like to meet the people out there. I don't think they're in Washington. I would like to meet the people out there that they're going to tell me the Nationals are going to win Game 6 and Game 7 in Houston with Verlander and Greinke on the hill. Please, somebody tell me that that's going to happen, right? Well, home field advantage is only as good as the next day's starting pitcher. Now, one might say home field advantage for Justin Verlander is not as important because he's never won a World Series game. Most starts in the MLB, 6 without a World Series victory. So I think the home field advantage for the Astros takes it down a notch going into Game 6. But ultimately, because of the starting pitching they have, they are about to probably win the World Series. It still matters. It still matters. And I'm curious. I was so curious to see that more people said that baseball home field advantage mattered than the other 2 major sports. I think it's football, man. You can get in the quarterback's head. You can cause them to not hear. You can cause the offensive linemen to not hear. You can cause them to jump off sides, man. If a goalie in hockey is standing on his head, you neutralize the crowd. If a pitcher on the mound is absolutely throwing lights out, you neutralize the crowd.
In basketball, if a dude's just shooting, you neutralize the crowd. In football, you could always not neutralize the crowd because they can. And now I get it. If you're Tom Brady and you go up 14 touchdowns, you neutralize the crowd. You could have that argument in theory with every sport, but it's just easiest to step out in inning number 1 as a starting pitcher, go 1, 2, 3, throw 9 pitches, and have the whole crowd go, uh-oh. It's that type of night. A goalie makes 2 big saves early in the first period. Uh-oh. It's going to be a tough night to put the puck in the net, right? In football, yeah, you know what? That guy, Tom Brady might go down and score right on his first drive, but on his second drive, somehow you get him to 3rd and 12. Well, now all of a sudden the crowd gets amped up. You're fired up. Call timeout. In football, it matters more to me. Last thing I got. Last thing. Now, I'll get back to that during Romalytics. Don't worry, because I'll give you the Romalytics on the poll during Romalytics. I don't want to hear about these robot umpires right now. I get it. Okay? I get it. Lance Barksdale, the home plate umpire from last night, blew a little bit of a call. I feel it. Right? The pitch before Zimmerman walks, it was even closer than the pitch in which the next player struck out. I get it. I understand that. But here's my argument to this whole robot umpire thing. Because everyone says, oh, but then you're never going to mess up strike calls. False. Someone give me the technology that's never broken. Somebody give me the technology that has worked for 100% of its lifespan without having to be fixed, without having something go wrong for then you to fix it. Everything breaks. Everything gets worn down. Everything has to be replaced. So my point being, you're telling me that we're not going to be in Game 5 of the World Series in 2035, let's say, and there's an automated umpire, and for some reason that day, that's the 1% glitch that happens, and it's a strike 3 call on a ball that bounces. What do we do? Oh, no, we just won't call that a strike. No, because then now you're arbitrary on so many others. Because no matter what, some pitches are still going to look like balls that are strikes, and some are going to be strikes that look like balls, i.e. the top of the strike zone. Every time a guy throws a curveball to the top of the strike zone, it looks like a ball, but it's actually a strike because it's breaking into the top of the strike zone. So no matter what, there's going to be people that are pissed off. There's going to be people that are bothered by calls. And my next point about that is, what do you do about the base umpires? Because you say, oh, it's the human element. The guy shouldn't have to be worrying about the home plate umpire and what his strike zone is and how many strikes he calls on the black compared to not on the black. But yet there's still humans calling out and safe calls in the field. And furthermore, you can then make the argument, okay, oh, well, yeah, but they have, challenges. Well, yeah, okay, but it's still all human element. It's still a human looking at a video, making a human decision based on what the human sees. But yet at home plate, you're not allowed to have human element unless it's a play at the plate. Well, it's still human element. So if you can't eliminate all of the human element in terms of the umpires in Major League Baseball, right? How can you only eliminate some and tell me it's going to get better? Well, Andrew, the strike zone will be a whole lot better. Okay, I don't disagree, but at the same time, all the technology I've seen, Arizona Winter League, the Atlantic League, independent baseball, it's not great right now. And I've talked to umpires that have had to be the home plate umpire for the technology, for the automated umpire, and it's a delay. You sit there, you know the call, you can't say it, you're waiting for the automated, then you have to make the call. It's weird. It almost slows the game down in a way. Now, I get it. There's kinks, it's new, it's fresh, things are going to have to be fixed, whatever the case is. I get all those things. But at the end of the day, you're not going to ever eliminate the human element. So why? And if you look at, and I found a cool website. It is swishanalytics.com. And I got MLB umpire factors and statistics from the whole league, right? And they got this thing called the K boost, which is like, okay, if it's a certain number, it's how much more percentage of strikes this umpire calls compared to that umpire. And Lance Barksdale is at a 12% clip. So he calls 12% more strikes than balls than the average umpire. So what that tells me, right, is that essentially if there's 100 pitches thrown, Lance Barksdale is going to call 12 more of them strikes than balls, okay? Yeah, that puts offense in the game, A, okay? And B, we're really talking about not a huge difference. right? And you're going to tell me, okay, so now maybe the technology makes it 2 or 3 pitches. So there's 9 pitches between the two in which an error could occur from the human, okay? And now we say, oh, those could affect the game. Really? Could it? Or maybe the 2-1 fastball that was thrown right down the middle of the plate that the hitter looked at for strike 2 would have been the effect that the team needed for that bat to change. It can't just be the robot umpire. I get it. There's error. But there's error, A, in everything, 1. But 2, there's human error all over the game. So now that one individual bit of human error can't be in the game anymore, but all the rest of this human error can still exist. The first base umpire, the second base umpire, the third base umpire, tossing it up to New York for video, players making errors on the field. All of that can still exist, but that human error behind home plate can't exist. That makes no sense to me. You can call in 609-807-2492. I know we have a statistics genius on the phone right now that we're going to get to right here, so we can continue the baseball conversation on the back end of our conversation with Mr. Jim Mazur. But I want to know your opinion on that. So get me on the socials, get me on the Facebook, do whatever you need to do. But I just don't believe automated umpires is the answer yet. I changed my tune, though, for a little bit of the horse racing. I have the president of Progressive Handicapper on the line, Mr. Jim Mazur. Sir, you've been on the show before, but thank you for joining me in this capacity.
Hey, glad to be here, Andrew. Your topic is awesome because the one thing that we've seen this year from horse racing, for one of the first times we had a major controversy in the Kentucky Derby where a horse was disqualified, and it was all human, and there's no robots, and a lot of people weren't happy with it. So it's an interesting discussion when it gets to the robots on these professional teams and the replays and all that kind of stuff. Good stuff.
Are you somebody that in the sport of horse racing feels like technology can be more apparent and visible?
Well, horse racing is in the throes of a technology revolution, but it's more from the wagering standpoint and the dissemination of information. That's where most of that's been happening in horse racing. I mean, now there are computer guys that are out there, they're making algorithms and they're betting at the last minute, and it really is throwing off the odds. So I think every sport is facing it one way or the other in one shape or form. So
all right.
Good stuff.
Jim Mazur, you are the president of Progressive Handicapping. Your website is proghandicap.com. Before we dive even deeper into this, can you explain to the Romo Sapiens what exactly you do at Progressive Handicapping?
I've been trying to figure that out for 20 years. I know I take out the garbage once a day, but that comes with being a husband.
That
too.
matters.
That's part of the job description.
That matters.
No, what we do is I have developed over the last 20-plus years a business where we're statistic-based, and I keep track of every trainer at most of the major race meets, and every year I publish a book for those meets that is akin to like a baseball card for each of these trainers. Let's say there's 100 trainers at Monmouth Park or Belmont, and I will profile all of those 100 and give them, the readers, a statistical profile so that the reader can then look at and see where the trainer has a strength or has a weakness. Now, when it comes to an event as opposed to a race meet where we're talking about something like the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, the Belmont, or in this case, the Breeders' Cup, I do the same statistical analysis, but it's not necessarily based on the trainers anymore. It's based on the history of the races. And I go back and we look at 20-plus years and determine what does it take to win a particular race like the Kentucky Derby. What are the trends? What are the strong common factors among previous winners? And then we publish that in book form on the internet, and people use it, and then they incorporate it into their wagering when they go to the racetrack or they bet online or wherever they're betting. So I'm like a newsletter, like a stock, a Merrill Lynch kind of information piece that people like to have so that they can get some extra edges against their competition. Because, Andrew, in horse racing, it's not like a casino where you're playing against the house. In horse racing, pari-mutuel horse racing, there's a pool of money that everybody is betting into, and that money gets dispersed out to the people who have the winning tickets after there's a takeout. So if there's $100,000 bet on a certain race on the win pool, the track will take out, let's say, 20%, and then 80,000 of that will be dispersed back to the winning ticket owners. So my customers are trying to be one of those people that are getting those winning tickets.
And you are essentially their analytics team. You're doing all the analytical data for them to then make the most confident, best possible wager with their money when they go to these races.
That's exactly right. Yep, that's exactly right. We hope we get it right. But everybody knows that, and most of my customers are not professionals. They might play every day, but they have another day job, and they understand that what we're doing has an element of chance and randomness, and they're doing it for the enjoyment of playing, and hopefully, like I said, that they're going to have more winning days than losing days, and have some meaningful cashes during the year.
We are talking to the president of Progressive Handicapping. That's proghandicap.com, Mr. Jim Mazur. Jim, you say that there's randomness, right, to this. You could run all the statistical analysis that you want. You could figure out every trend, every nook and cranny that could help your followers gain an edge when they're putting their money down. But at the end of the day, right, you can't always be right. So my guess is, over the course of time, you've been more right than not, and you've created a method in which has been successful for you. Can you talk about how you kind of handicap horses, or what your method is in finding the statistics, and then how you've maybe developed that method or changed it over time?
Sure. I mean, it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about the trainers and the race meets, that is all driven by data and programming that I've done over the years, and we get a feed of information in raw form, and then we turn it into the finished product. With the events like the Kentucky Derby and everything, basically I just update a database every year for the current winners, and it's not that difficult because there's only one Kentucky Derby winner, so I'm just adding that horse on to the last 20 or so years, and then lopping off some of the earlier ones so that we can keep it as fresh as possible. Do I use the information myself? Of course. However, I am not an everyday player, but I find in big races like the Kentucky Derby and the Breeders' Cup that it helps to come into the race having a certain statistical profile of what it takes to win the race. And let me give you an example. There are 14 different races on the Breeders' Cup weekend. There are 5 races for 2-year-olds that'll be run on Friday. And this is going to take place at Santa Anita this Friday, November 1st. And then on the Saturday, the day following, there'll be 9 more races. And they're all in different categories. So in the Friday races, there are races on the grass just for 2-year-old guys and 2-year-old girls, 2 different races. And you would think that they would play out the same way, that the only difference is the gender of the horse. But they're 2 different, totally different histories of the race.
Wow.
In the juvenile turf, the Europeans ship over here, and they win almost every single year. So you would think that they would have an edge in the with the fillies, with the female, and yet they don't win. The Americans win, and they come out of a certain 1 or 2 races, and it's, we just wait for that pattern to be broken. And we just keep going with it until it's a trend that it's not that way anymore, and then we look for the reason why.
Wow.
So,
wow.
But I have gotten in front of audiences and said this.
Tell me.
Here's a trainer who was 0 for 65 in stakes races, and then that afternoon he wins 2.
Wow. Wow. So it
that's
happens.
the randomness.
It is.
And that's where you can look bad. But over the long haul, like you said, we're going to be ahead betting against this guy in stakes races. Okay.
Do you have a
we just happened to
percentage?
be there on the day that he found the lucky coin, so to speak.
Do you have a percentage on do you have like a winning percentage? Like, do you keep your winning percentage on like what you've said, or is that even possible?
It's virtually impossible because you're dealing with statistics for 100 trainers in maybe 20 categories, and there's no way that we could sit around and track that every day.
Right.
However, we put out a product at various race meets, maybe about 8 during the year. It's called the Blue Chip Trainer Angle, and that is like saying a trainer is good in one category, and then we look at it, and then we filter out some of the negatives in his profile, and we come up with like a super angle.
Wow.
And those we publish, and we do track them. And I would say the win percentage for those, just betting them on the blind, which is not what you want to do, but people will just blindly look at it. They won't even look at the horse. They'll just say, this is an angle. It's worked 30-40% in the past. We're just going to play it. Those come in about between 17 and 20% on the blind.
Wow.
And overall, I would say your rate of return is about 20 to 25%.
Yeah, wow.
So to put that in perspective, if you had bet $1,000 into all of those, you would have taken home $1,250 for a $250 profit.
All right.
And that's 25% better than putting it in the old CD at 3%. So
I could see a lot of people taking that and loving those odds. All right, we're talking to Jim Mazur, president of Progressive Handicapping. I'll give you the website again. It's proghandicap.com. And part of the main reason why we got Jim on the show today was to talk about the Breeders' Cup this upcoming weekend. So, Jim, okay, you can tell me anything you want about the Breeders' Cup. I am a novice horse racing bettor, you could say. Let's put it that way. All right.
Uh-huh.
It is the only sport in the NCAA since I am an employee of the NCAA that I'm allowed to bet on, because it's not an NCAA sport. So I would love to take your advice today on the Breeders' Cup, and I'd love to put some of my bananas towards it, so we can come back next week on Monday for the Rome Show listeners and let them know how we did, okay? So I will be, in your knowledge of the Breeders' Cup, writing down some notes as well and putting some of, we'll call it the Rome Show money. We'll put some of the Rome Show money on your picks today. How's that sound? All right, so.
Okay, so.
Go ahead.
There's 14 races, and I think the one that most of the novices or people perhaps in your stage of the game that don't know too much about it, it's like they don't really pay any attention to anything during the year, but they will get interested in the Kentucky Derby. That's something that's commonplace.
Sure.
Well, the one race on the 14-race menu is saved for the last race of the whole thing, and it's called the Breeders' Cup Classic. It has a $6 million purse.
Wow.
So that means the horse that wins is going to get 60% of that purse. So they're going to win $3.6 million.
Wow.
The trainer will take away 10% of that for $360,000, and so will the jockey. So it is a huge, huge payday. And the way it's structured on these big racing days is, you can bet horses just to win. You can bet them to place. But a lot of the people who are in this are looking for a bigger payoff. And there are wagers called the Pick Six, where you have to pick the winner of 6 races in a row on the Breeders' Cup card.
Wow.
So you wouldn't normally take one horse in each race. That would be almost impossible. That's like lotto, But what you can do is you could take 4 horses in one race, you could take 3 horses in another race, and you multiply it out, and that's what your cost of your wager is. So if you were to put in, let's say, 3 horses in every race for the Pick Six, let's say, it would cost you $729 to do that, which is a pretty big sum. So the Classic is the one that's at the end of the rainbow.
14th to 14th.
So what you're looking for in that sequence of 6 is to find a race where maybe you can take one horse and single it. And then you'll maybe, instead of taking 3 in another race, you could take 5 or 6.
Okay.
So that's the way it works. So in the Breeders' Cup Classic, for the culmination of the horse racing biggest race, what you will find are horses that race in the Kentucky Derby, race in the Preakness, and race in the Belmont Stakes. They're 3 years old, and now they're thrown in with older horses who perhaps raced in the Kentucky Derby when they were 3, but now they're racing in what's called the handicap elite section of horse racing. So it's a mixture. And this one is being held in Santa Anita, which is just east of Los Angeles, right on the San Gabriel Mountains. And you're a Southern California guy, so you probably know where that is, even though you're closer to San Diego.
Beautiful area.
But the interesting thing is that you're getting horses now shipping in from New York and Kentucky and trying to do battle with horses that are used to training on that track, that are the hometown horses.
So the crazy thing about the Breeders' Cup, Jim, is that it's really not just one specific race. You're talking about a whole day of racing.
It's 2 days of racing, and that's why we all get together at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Uncasville, Connecticut, and my customer base comes out, 40 strong, and we have seminars, and what we do, Andrew, is we pool our money. So if we come up with a pick six ticket, let's say that costs $5,000, that's pretty daunting to a lot of people, and they can't come up with that kind of bankroll. But when you have 40 people taking various percentages, even a 10% bet of that is only $500.
Right.
And we break it down even further. So for $250 or $100, you can be in the action. And if you get a couple long shots, the payoff can get into $500,000-$600,000. So that's where,
Can the rookie novice guy like myself show up to this event in Connecticut?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, you would want to call me first and register.
I would assume.
You could come, and that would be a great way for somebody who just wants to have some action and learn a little bit. Bring your bankroll, and we will tell you what we're playing as a group, and you'll be part of it, and we'll tell you what to root for. Now, I do this with my friends during the Derby and the Preakness and so, and your dad has been in some of those cartels.
Yes, he has.
And there was one time a few years ago in the Belmont Stakes where we had literally the only possible winning ticket that would have paid something like $600,000-$700,000 in the whole country.
Wow.
And our horse got nosed at the wire. They got nosed. So that's how close we came to that one.
And I know that in your history as friends, you guys have had a lot of fun in the horse racing realm together.
Right. Your dad and I actually owned a few horses.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I liken to owning a yacht. It's like a black hole when you own them.
It's got to be
I'd much rather take the money and bet on them.
Yeah,
So.
I like that. Well, then now, so when you put out your information on the Breeders' Cup for this example, okay, do you give favorites too for like each specific 14 race, or is it you do favorites in the 6-pick bet, or is it literally everything you could possibly bet will give you numbers on that they could possibly bet?
Yeah, I do it. I have several different analyses that come out for this particular event. One of them doesn't tell the bettor who to bet, what number to bet, or anything like that. It simply takes, let's say, 12 horses in a field, and I will tell them the horses that match up to previous winners. We call that the crushing zone. So there might be 3 horses that when I look at all the different possibilities, they stand out among the rest. It doesn't mean they're going to win, but they're the best match that we can find based on what they've done in their career to what has been done to previously win the race. So that's one product. Then there's another product where I actually give a selection in each race, and I will do that in 2 ways. I will give a horse that is most likely to win, and that most likely will be one of the favorites. Doesn't always have to be, but it's going to be a horse that's on pretty much all the people's radar, and they're betting it. Then I will give what's called a value play, and that might be a horse who's 6 or 7 to 1 that I think falls into that category of the crushing zone, but he's not being played or she's not being played for one reason or another. So that's one. And then I will give a couple long shots. And that's where we're hoping I'm right. Because if you can catch a horse that pays $40 or $50 and the favorite runs second, maybe you catch an exacta that pays $400 or $500, that's when you can really crush the cup. So that's the menu that I put out there for people. And then they can, some of them, it's like Home Depot. Some of them like to get the information and do it themselves. You know, they'll use that one analysis. And others, they just simply don't have the time or the wherewithal, and they want answers. They want to know who's your top 3 players in this race, that kind of thing.
Can we order from that menu now, or do we have to wait until your third and fourth day?
No. If they go to my website, they can pick up Breeders' Cup. They would have to sign. It's just like eBay or Amazon. You set up your own account,
right?
And then you go to the orders section and Breeders' Cup, and you would order probably BC selections is what I would recommend for anybody that's out there that just wants answers, because most of them, are not going to be sophisticated horse players that have been in my database for a long time. They want to have a good time. So, and anybody that's in the earshot of Connecticut that wants to drive up to the Mohegan Sun and spend the weekend with us, I think there's even a few discounted rooms available. And if anybody's interested in that in the Romo Sapien world, they can call my number, 800-272-8039, and I'll get them signed up, and we'll entertain them all weekend. We'll take some of their money and try to turn it into a small fortune into a big fortune.
And over the last 5 to 10 minutes or so here on our interview with Jim Mazur, the president of Progressive Handicapping, you, the Romo Sapien, can call him and ask him any specific question on what he does with Progressive Handicapping. The number is 609-807-2492, fielding any calls. If anyone wants to call in, 609-807-2492. Guys, I'm on the ProGHandicap.com website right now, and it is super easy. I got to the order section in like 10 seconds. So, Jim, I'm going to have you give the number again before you get out of here, too. But I hope that some Romo Sapiens show up, and I hope that some Romo Sapiens put some money on your favorites and some other things that you're talking about here, because I'm super excited now, because I think, and as we exchanged emails getting ready for the show today, we realized big time that I'm the novice guy in this field. But it has been a lot of fun learning and browsing your website and just kind of getting an idea of how you present the information. And I like it because it's black and white. And I think that's probably what numbers is, right? It's black and white. This is the percentage because of this reasoning, your choice to put the money down. And I feel like you guys make it really easy for people like myself or people that might be considered, quote-unquote, experts to understand and feel confident in what they're doing.
Yep, that's our goal, and we hope that we can do it. Now, one of the things that we can, try to do is, and it'll be a little bit of a break, between now and then, but when the springtime comes, we can do a little bit of call-in and everything, and have a scheduled show, leading up to the Kentucky Derby and in between for the Preakness. So, we can get Progressive Handicapping to sponsor those shows, and open it up for our customer base, and hopefully we'll get some calls. I don't know if we're getting any calls today, but I sent it out there, and I don't know if it's the middle of the day, but I think if I keep at it and keep plugging with the phone number and everything through the next few months, we'll get a listenership that will call in when we have a scheduled show.
Do you know how I know you and my father are best friends? Because I'm sitting with him before the show or doing a little pre-show write-up, and he says, I think you should get Jim on right before, a week or two prior to the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, and you guys can do a consistent show and he can sponsor it. Exact same words. So,
yep, absolutely.
The main sponsor of the show is down for Progressive Handicapping to join in on the Rome show. It's a plethora, Jim. It's for everybody. Listen, I got a few personal questions for you though. Okay? Because I'm so curious about what you do. It's so super interesting to me, and I'm on the heels of doing very poorly in a statistics class. So you're probably teaching me more than my professor did over the last, 8 weeks. I want you to understand that. But I was curious, okay, because in the sport of baseball, coaches talk often about, following your gut and listening to your gut. And if you're going to make a decision on the roster, think about what your gut says. Has there ever been a point in time in your career when you run the data analysis, you look at the information, you look at the numbers, and then you say, man, my gut is telling me I should tell the people the exact opposite of this, and you did it? Or have you just always gone with the numbers?
Oh, no. No. There are plenty of times when you have to look at some other things and go against the numbers. We call it almost sorcery, on certain things that we call no-brainers.
Okay.
And a no-brainer is an interesting concept. And let me give you an example of a no-brainer. You have a trainer that is running two horses in the same race. Now, in the old days, they would have to run together, so you would bet the number and you would get both of them. But the way horse racing is now, they let them run as separate betting entries. So now you have the same trainer, perhaps with two different owners, running two horses. And I don't even have a stat on it, but the rule of thumb is you always take the one at the longer odds, because there's that piece of chicanery, that says, something's up. One of them's going to set up the other one, and they're going to try to cash a ticket, so take the one with the longer odds.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many tickets that we've cashed on that, using just that simple no-brainer kind of situation. Now, there's a trainer at Saratoga. The guy invariably wins, maybe 6-7%. Really low percentage. But this guy, when I'm not paying attention to him, it's unbelievable that he'll pull over a $50 winner all the time. And the name is like legend. His name is Roy Lehrman. Everybody in my customer base that plays Saratoga, they wait for the guy. And then they call me and say, make sure you're out of town or something and don't bet this guy.
That's great.
And let him win. So the answer to your question is, yeah, it's not all cut and dry where you just go with that percentage. You do have to use that gut. It's interesting because one of my favorite movies, and I'm sure it's one of yours because you're a baseball guy, is Moneyball.
Oh, yeah.
And I just watched it again last week, and that scene where he's in there with the scouts and and he's saying, we're going with this. This is my gut. I'm telling you, this guy over here from Yale, we're going to get guys that can get on base. And, and everybody's just scoffing at him. They're smoking their cigars and, because it was a change. And the guy, Bill James, actually started all this stuff with the statistics in horse racing. He was writing these little profiles. So it's a very, very fun business in that it is statistically driven, but you still got to use your head and you got to make decisions.
Yeah, and I'm sure you see other sports using the statistics in your realm all the time, and almost probably sometimes you say to yourself, I could almost see these sports using what I use in horse racing more to help them out.
Absolutely. With the advent of, legalized sports betting, and I'm a little, I'm getting near the end of my career, but if I was younger, and I know this is probably already out there, I would be keeping statistical databases on, how teams do at home, how they go against the spread, this and that. I'm sure it's out there, and I'm sure you can buy it to make your wagers, on Sunday afternoon, when you're playing football. When you're betting on football. And so there's a application for what I do in horse racing to pretty much any sport. And the betting is going to become really, really huge. You're seeing it already in New Jersey at Monmouth. And some of these other states are really going to move forward. New Jersey had a head start on everybody, so that's why they're out there. And the funny thing is, Andrew, is that I can't even think of 3 or 4 times where I've ever bet a sports bet. Never. I just don't do it.
Really?
If it doesn't have 4 legs, I'm not interested.
No, listen, I understand it. Hey, in our profession, they would call that staying in your lane. So I completely understand
That's
that.
right.
Staying in your lane.
That's
So,
right.
Rube, I saw on the screen that we had a phone caller. Is that true? I do believe.
Well, it can't be my mother or father because they're not with us anymore.
We do. All right. Well, Jim, we have a caller on the line. All right. So,
Sure.
caller, can you please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and ask away with what you want to ask away with?
Okay, this is Jeff from Boca Raton, Florida, also known as Doc. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Doc, what's happening? See, Doc's going to be with us at the Mohegan Sun. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
All right.
Hey, you're welcome. Hey, this is an unsolicited call, and I just want to let everyone know I was part of the posse that hit the $300,000 pick six at Santa Anita in 2016. So Jim can do it, and I'm sure we will do it again this year. So that's a live testimony to Jim's success. But
I appreciate that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's on, and the video is on his website. So I also encourage everyone to enjoy what a real big six-figure win can look like. But hey, real quick, let's turn to Bob Baffert. He's got three contenders, and they're all vulnerable as co-favorites. And let's see if we can kind of vet him out. So hey, Jim, what do you think of Bast, 8 Rings, and McKenzie? They all have their kind of Achilles heel. Starting with Bast?
Yeah, absolutely. There's these key prep races, and Bast won the one that was out in California. And it is a race that has produced a winner of the Juvenile Fillies, where she's in several times at Santa Anita. But I did not like the way she finished. But you really, it's so hard to throw out Bob Baffert on his home court. And, Jeff, I was thinking about this today driving back and forth from lunch, that as much as I want to play against some of these Santa Anita horses, I look back at the history, and they're just so dominant when that Breeders' Cup is held there that I'm remiss about throwing them out altogether. But you know as well as I do that we play A teams and B teams, and I think the thing to do is to protect ourselves and try to beat them with someone else, but have them up there just in case.
Right.
I think 8 Rings has got a tough road. He's going to go right to the front, as you know. And in that particular race, there are 2 other horses that I think, and they're not, any great mysteries. Dennis's Moment coming out of Churchill and Maxfield coming out of Keeneland are both quality colts that hopefully we'll see running in the Kentucky Derby next year. But Dennis's Moment seems like he is absolutely the real deal, and I would say that is one of my top choices. I just hope that he can break past the Santa Anita curse, because that track out there is going to play a little bit differently, and I think that the horses that have been training on it might have an advantage because it's a little bit deep, because of all the accidents that they've had out there. They don't want another accident during the Breeders' Cup. McKenzie. Initially I was totally against McKenzie, but the more I look at that field and look at his numbers and what he's done, I can't say that I can throw him out. No way. So he's not a single though. What do you think?
Yeah, hey, I'm gonna throw a horse in your court, and I'm sure we'll have a chance to reconnect when we all get up to Mohegan. But I was looking at the distaff, and I'll tell you, Ollie's Candy is interesting because I was looking back at Stellar Wynn's profile when she came into the Breeders' Cup a few years back, and she had bounced going from the Zenyatta and into the Breeders' Cup, so she couldn't compete with Songbird and Beholder, but Sadler has kind of reconstructed the pathway to the distaff this year. And that last race is sneaky good with Ollie's Candy, and she's had 3 monster workouts since that race, including a work that was just shy of Chancelot's spin the other day. So I'm going to take a chance, and I think we should try to beat Midnight Bisou, and going to try to give Ollie's Candy a chance. So one from my side of the equation.
That's exactly what we should be doing. And what we should be doing is taking the Santa Anita horses and stacking them up against Midnight Bisou. And you're going to take Ollie's Candy. You might take Paradise Woods. who won the race against Dolly's Candy. And maybe even take a look at Secret Spice. Maybe that horse gets out on the front end and doesn't stop this time. So those would be three that I would use to try to beat what could be one of the heaviest favorites on the 2-day card, Midnight Bitsu, who has done nothing wrong in her career. She's only 7 for 7 this year, and certainly deserves status.
Let me throw one more question out, and I'll get back to my patients. In the remainder of the Breeders' Cup, who is of the heavy favorites that we haven't mentioned? Who do you think is most vulnerable?
Well, I was going to say Magical until she was scratched.
Yeah.
That was somebody I was definitely looking to play against. I would say Kofifi would be high on my list. I don't trust those 3-year-olds in the filly and mare sprint. Even though they won last. See, Andrew, this is one of those deals. A 3-year-old hasn't won this race. As a group, they were like 0 for 25, and last year they won.
Wow. Okay.
So now they're 1 for 25.
That's where it goes against the stats.
Right. So that's who I would say, Doc. And you have a safe trip up. We'll see you Thursday night, right?
Excellent, Jim. Thanks, guys. Till then, and best of luck, everyone, with the Breeders' Cup. Take care.
Hey,
Take care.
Thank you, Doc, for tuning in. That was honestly, Jim, that was as good of a lesson for me and the Romo Sapiens as possibly could have happened right there. It might have sounded a little bit like a foreign language, but I think I got a little bit of what you were talking about right there.
We do have our own lingo. There's no question about it. So.
But that's great, and it's fun, and it's cool that you've set up a following that you have, and it clearly sounds like the people that do follow progressive handicapping really do have a trust in you. So before you get out of here, okay, because I do this with every guest on the Rome Show, okay, I want you to leave the Romo Sapiens with one thing, right? It could be anything you want to leave them with, but if there's one thing they leave Jim Mazur's interview with today, what may that one thing be?
It's to get up in the day and have a good time, and get yourself focused on what you want to do. Try to get past all the garbage that is in this very, very complicated world that we're in, and do the right thing. When you're out there with your family and your friends, but have a good time and chase your dream. And that's something that I've done, and I'm so lucky to be able to do what I like to do, and sit here and do horses all day. And I want to say congratulations to you, because I know you're chasing a dream as well. And I heard that you had a successful interview, and you're hopefully going to be employed. So in another position. So that's great. Great news, and you keep doing what you're doing, and keep doing the radio show. That's fun.
Well, I appreciate it, Jim. I very, very much appreciate it. I appreciate your time today. I appreciate the knowledge you dropped on us about the ponies. I appreciate your fans, Doc. Much appreciate for calling in, and I look forward to scheduling some time to get you back here as we turn the calendar over and get ready for those big cups that you say a lot of those novice Romo Sapiens may want to bet on.
We will, and look for Duke to have another good basketball team this year. And you know what? I've seen the Miami Heat, who I never even watched until the end of the year, and they look very exciting this year. They have some young players. I think they're going to be a good team.
I agree with you, 100%.
Take care, everybody.
You have a good one, Jim. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Again, that is Jim Mazur, the president of Progressive Handicapping. That website is proghandicap.com. The number to call Jim is 800-272-8039. We appreciate Jim's fans that tuned in, as well as Doc for calling in. I mean, wow, some of that horse racing stuff is way over my head. Rube, I'm going to say we hang on to the commercial for the end of the show, since we went a little bit over on the interview, and we can just finish it up here, and then we'll go to commercial at 2 o'clock. I mean, Jim and Doc were talking about
Olives Candy and Paradise Woods and Secret Spice. And I think here's my issue with the ponies. And it's not an issue more so than it's probably my ADD, is that I think it's hard for me to concentrate when they're talking about horse racing because the names then all of a sudden distract me. I'm like, the horse's name is Secret Spice. That's really funny, you know? And then all of a sudden, I'm like, what did he just say about Secret Spice? And then it's like, but I'm seriously talking about Olives Candy, and you know? So I think that's where I need to maybe mature a little bit in the pony game and you know, care less about the names. So we appreciate Jim coming on. A lot of stuff to learn there. Get over to his website, call in, do whatever you want to do in terms of putting your money down on the ponies. November 3rd and 4th, you can go up to Connecticut and be with him. So do that. Do that if you're interested. I might be a little interested as well. So we got about 5 minutes left here on the Rome Show before we finish. And I wanted to, obviously, I have some Romalytics here for you. But I also wanted to get a little bit into what I talked about earlier on in the show, which was home field advantage. And close out if there's any calls, 609-807-2492. I see on the Facebook some people's tuning in. Mom, Grandma, Katie Fissel, thank you so much. You know I love you. My mom said we may have created some horse racing fans today. I agree, Deb. I agree. I think we might have some people that are going to pony up, pun intended, this weekend some of their bananas and follow Jim's advice. I know the Rome Show will be, and we'll get back to you next Monday on that. Your Romalytics, maybe one day sponsored by Progressive Handicapping since they do statistics. Your Romalytics comes from the NFL Variety this week, October 28th, here on the Rome Show. Bill Belichick became the third winningest coach in NFL history on Sunday. He won his 300th football game, third all time. And I wanted to give you some stats on Bill Belichick. And there's simple stats, but they're stats that I believe depict the best coach in sports history. And if not the best, top two, you can't even argue. Maybe top three, depending on who you put in. But arbitrary, best coach in sports, at least right now, Bill Belichick. 300 wins in the National Football League. He's the third coach ever to hit the 300-win mark. He has 6 Super Bowl championships as a head coach, which is the most all-time. He has 8 total Super Bowl championships if you include the 2 he won with the New York Football Giants underneath Bill Parcells. 9 times Bill Belichick as a head football coach has shown up to the Super Bowl, which is the most as a head coach in NFL history. He has 18 seasons of 10 or more wins. 18 seasons of 10 or more wins. 17 of which were with the New England Patriots. 1 with the Cleveland Browns, who he beat to win his 300th game as fittingly as possible. You're telling me that you can hate on that guy? Like, I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm a fan of a team in the AFC East. Nobody, at least for this week, 1 week, you're not allowed to hate on Bill Belichick, because the Romalytics today just showed you that A, he's the greatest football coach in history, but B, he might be the greatest coach in history. So no pooping on Bill Belichick, at least for this week. Because I think by the time it's all said and done, he's going to have the most wins in NFL history. He's probably going to still have the most Super Bowls, most Super Bowl appearances, and probably have 20-plus seasons of 10 or more wins. In the last few minutes here, a bonus Romalytic for you this week is that Tiger Woods also did a little bit of what Bill Belichick did. He tied Sam Snead for the most PGA Tour wins of all time at 82. I posed this question. We won't answer it now, but I'll probably pose it on the gram. Does Tiger win his 83rd? Does Tiger win his 83rd? I'm going to say yes. Is it this year? Yes. But I don't think it's a major. But I do think he gets to 83. Real quick before we get out of here, I just want to let you know that the poll evened itself out a little bit, okay? 60% now say that baseball is the sport in which home field advantage matters the most. Then you have another 20% on football, and then 10 and 10 on hockey and basketball. I disagree with the Romo Sapiens today, but hey, that's allowed. We're allowed to disagree. If you disagree, right into the show. I'm probably going to continue this a little bit into next week as well, especially once we get the World Series winner and we move a little bit more forward in the sports world. We also had a write-in that said, I think soccer matters the most. I kind of agree. But unfortunately, we don't consider it one of the four major sports. So that could be a conversation for another day. All right. The Rome Show today for October 28th, 2019 is coming to a conclusion. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank President of Progressive Handicapping, Mr. Jim Mazur, for coming on and dropping some knowledge on the ponies. I want to thank the Romo Sapiens that tuned in both on the Instagram poll, the Instagram write-ins, the Facebook, the whole 9 yards. We appreciate it always. Please, please, please tune in next week, November 4th, 1 to 2 p.m. for the next installment of The Rome Show. At Wide World of Rome, at Coach Romo24 on Twitter and the gram, wideworldofrome.com. Get me on Facebook, Andrew.Romanella, or The Rome Show 1 on Facebook. So many ways to get us. Thank you to Ruben. Thank you to the fans. We love you. It's The Rome Show. Until next week, peace.
Are you looking to become a better leader, whether that's in business, in sports, or in life, and you haven't found a book yet to help you get to that game-changing aha moment? Well, we have the book for you. Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership. Tighten the Lug Nuts will help you get to that game-changing leadership moment. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks, or at 360managementservices.com. That's the number 360managementservices.com. Pick up your copy today and start changing your leadership styles. Are you looking?
Now it's time for the show.
Do this look like work to you? Nah, looking at the lights like it's all of this